Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit petslife.ie.
Kildare's KFM. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of our conversation in just a few moments. First of all, Des, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, John. Great to be here again.
Come a little bit tad closer. Move that down to your... Well, not... Go back a bit.
Thanks, John. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. I was just thinking, with Christmas time and your own dog food supply business and everything else and the way it's going, is there demand for it? Has it picked up since, when you started coming back to us and you were telling us about it? How has things gone over the last year or so?
Yeah, so the pet nutrition industry is growing. There's a demand for premium pet food. So new dog owners are more knowledgeable about the need to feed their pet really well from the word go. So they're understanding the holistic idea that if you do everything right and put the right food in, you'll have a healthier pet, which will live longer, which will have a better quality life, and so on. So there's an appetite there amongst people to get the right advice. And they'll buy a better quality pet food, which is great, because ours is a vet-only brand, the Gym Dog brand. It's a low-volume pet food. It's not a mass-produced pet food. We've no additives in it, no artificial preservatives, all that kind of stuff. So there's a bit of attention to detail in terms of making a smaller volume of it. So that means it is a premium food, and we take a good bit of care and attention to sell the first bag to make sure that we're selling the right bag to suit that dog or that cat. And that sort of steer, that very personalised steer on helping people get the nutrition right from the word go, that pays off in the long run for them and hopefully also for us.
Okay, here's one for you. Is it okay to give animals, say, cooked food that we eat? Because I was listening to somebody talking about, they said they give them the dry food, they don't give them wet pet food at all. They give them predominantly dry food, but they also mix in bits of chicken, bits of ham, bits of beef, bits of whatever into their food because it's cooked, it's dry and it's healthy, it's what we're eating. Is that okay to do?
It is okay. See, some dogs in particular are conditioned that they want a bit of moisture and they want a bit of flavour, a bit of smell in their food. So if they're not started off on the dry food from the word go, they can find the dry food a little
bland.
Bland because it doesn't smell and it's not moist.
Yeah.
So adding good quality human food, leftovers as we say, right? That's far better than buying the tins. So now again, I'd qualify that also by saying that it shouldn't be leftover bread, it shouldn't be leftover bits of pizza, it shouldn't be leftover processed foods. It also shouldn't be, believe it or not, now people need to know this, rashers and sausages and black pudding and all these things that are full of nitrites and nitrates.
And higher content of salt as well.
Salt, right? Yeah. They're not good.
No.
They're not good. So the bit of leftover ham, rasher, sausage, black pudding, I actually wouldn't recommend that at all.
Right.
But nice Christmas, nice dinner leftovers are fine. Providing, as well, remember also, your vet in particular will advise you to look at the bag and you measure out or you weigh how much of it you're meant to give you're meant to be giving your dog.
Yeah.
So if you're throwing in the few scraps, even if they're good scraps, on top of the dry food, you need to take out about 10 to 20%
of the dry food. Yeah,
you do. Yeah. Otherwise, you're throwing in a few extra calories for no good reason.
Okay, and the other one is, I mean, look, bribery is a great thing. Get out of the house, cat, or wherever it is, and you wave a half a slice of cooked ham. I am known to do that. And whatever, tear it up into a few bits, chuck it out, and out. The cats are so they just go for the food.
They love the food.
So, but I mean, that's just, that's probably not the best either, is it?
Well, you see, if you're training an animal to behave in a particular way, using a little bit of food is a good thing. I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what's really good as well for puppies is you just use their own kibble as your training aid, as your training tool. Then they won't get used to needing to be bribed by anything special.
Okay, that's a very good. Okay, Rod, it's a bit late now on that one, but anyway, it was gas. My wife just sent me a photograph a few minutes ago of our cat who was into the house, couldn't find him anywhere. He was hiding under the bed, or God knows where he was, and it turns out that he was actually physically the throw on top of the bed. He had climbed in underneath it. We couldn't find him, so my wife just sent me the photograph on WhatsApp, and they're devils, aren't they? They just all animals, and you can see there he was.
Cool dude.
Yeah.
Under the pillow almost.
Under the
he has it sussed in life. He knows where his comforts are.
Well, he doesn't. We leave him out a lot of the time, but he sneaks in, especially in the cold weather. But anyway, matters at hand. So that's a good bit of advice. What about, coming in towards Christmas, which we will talk to the happier stuff from next week, because we're going into a tough subject now, which of course is end of life. And end of life from your animal's perspective, and as an owner facing up to it, also how to cope with it, and also how to make sure that it's as easy for the animal as well. So at what point are we thinking about this? Let's go back to the beginning, Des.
Well, you see, John, this is a daily conversation in our veterinary surgery, and probably every practice in the country every day, and it's hard on the veterinary team. So there's no shying away from the topic, because it crops up. I guarantee you, as many listeners here to our show this morning are grappling with this type of decision as are full of the joys of spring with their young puppy.
Yeah.
So elder life care. Dogs are living longer, thankfully, because they're being better fed and better minded into old age.
And exercised.
So all of the usual factors that come into play for you and I to remain fit and healthy and well into old age. It's the same for dogs and cats. Routine and exercise and good diet, good lifestyle, etc. But at some stage, old age catches up, you see.
Yeah.
And then we have to have conversations about quality of life. And because euthanasia is on the cards, if you like, for many of our pets, we have to help owners make these decisions as regards, is euthanasia appropriate, and when is it appropriate, and why is it appropriate? So let's talk about why would euthanasia be appropriate. And the answer to that question is euthanasia is something you should consider when the quality of life of your animal is not as good as it should be.
Okay.
And how do you decide?
So are you talking about that maybe for the previous year or 6 months or 9 months or whatever the case may be, there's a diagnosis after being given, and there's going to be an issue and a point that you're going to have to face this where the vets can't do any more medication-wise or whatever, operation-wise, or whatever the case may be. And then you're coming to it. Is that where we're going on this?
Yeah, we are. There's an inevitability that time catches up, and there's an inevitability that chronic diseases that are just old age related eventually get a bit worse, and eventually get to the stage where we can't help the animal be pain-free and healthy any longer, and quality of life gets impaired. So what are the factors that we help people look at in terms of understanding that their animal's quality of life is now not as good as it should be? Right? The first is, remember, they're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
So their appetite.
Yeah.
The very first sign the quality of life is not as good as it should be is loss of appetite.
Okay.
Animals, when they're well, will always eat.
Yeah.
When they begin to lose their appetite, then something is wrong.
Yeah.
They're either in pain, or they're nauseous, or they've just become weak. Now, that could be benign and simple. It could be toothache, or it could be much more severe pain, or it could be a hidden tumour, a cancerous issue there. But appetite, loss of appetite, is the first factor in terms of assessing the quality of life has dropped.
Okay.
Second factor will be mobility. So dogs and cats are creatures of habit. They don't like being invalids. They want to be out and about doing their normal thing, having a look in the garden, in the corners. They have their spaces and places they like to go to every day. So when they're losing their mobility and they're losing interest in getting out and about, that's the second thing you must consider. And you must understand that at that point in time, when they're less mobile, their quality of life has reduced, because they don't want to be lying around.
No, they don't. They definitely don't.
Though other things then would be their toileting habits will change.
Okay.
Now that's an inconvenience for you, an inconvenience for the house, and it's an inconvenience for the animal. Animals have a certain level of natural dignity and privacy themselves. They don't like when their toileting habits change.
Yeah.
And they usually won't change their toileting habits on purpose.
No.
There'll usually be a physical reason for it.
Right.
That they don't feel like getting out to the garden, they don't feel like going to the usual place, or they're becoming incontinent, they can't get to the exit, get to the back door in time, and so on. And that's as distressing for them as it is inconvenient for you.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, like, when it comes to your animals generally, particularly your dog, you're more I suppose you're going to cop it quicker, aren't you? You're going to notice there is changes quicker than you would with, say, a cat.
Yeah, cats are secretive and furtive, and they hide their clinical signs. Dogs are more social, they're more extrovert, they're more tuned into the family group, so they're not going to hide their signs as much. So you will know with a dog much more so. Now with cats, it might be a trickier conversation, even for the vets sometimes, to assess whether this cat is just getting old or actually in pain.
Right.
It can be hard for us to figure that out too.
Okay, that's understandable. How does animal euthanasia work? So an owner now has to go in and say we're talking about the end of life care from the last period. So how far out before you know it's coming are you talking to the owners?
Depends on the disease process, right?
Right.
Well, generally speaking, if
let's take it two sides. So let's take it one as a disease and one as just old age.
Okay. So if we've been treating a dog or a cat for a year or so for a chronic disease,
right,
even if it's just arthritis,
okay,
we'll get to the stage whereby a month or so before we have to make a decision, we'll know that the medication is not working very well.
Okay, right.
And what we'll probably do is we'll up the medication to a high dosage, a high level. Okay. But that's not sustainable.
No.
It's not sustainable.
Because that'll have other problems with other organs and stuff.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So we lift the dosage for quality of life reasons into the zone of palliative care.
Right, okay.
But palliative care eventually gets organ functions or the stomach or whatever to the level whereby it's not sustainable to keep medicating the animal.
Yeah.
And something else will go wrong.
Okay.
So we'll probably warn the owner that we're getting to that stage.
Okay, so that's probably a month out, is it?
Exactly.
So they know that this is coming down the tracks.
Exactly.
Right.
And everyone has a chance to get used to the idea and think about...
What type of conversation would you have? If I was an owner now and you're sitting down, you're talking to me, what are you saying to me?
We'll just say, right, look, the Romocam and Previcox are not working very well anymore.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch him to steroids and Librela.
Yeah.
And they're very strong. And they'll give him an extra little bit of a boost and they'll give him an extra little bit of pain relief.
Right.
But what might happen is you might now see side effects.
Okay.
Whereby you have urinary incontinence, there's pressure on the kidneys, your animal might begin to suffer. As I push the meds and begin to deal with his pain in a more severe, more serious way, you might see side effects.
Okay.
So with these side effects now, we're very soon going to have to start thinking about letting him go for his own sake.
Okay. So that's the way you approach it.
Yeah.
And coming at it from a different angle completely, what about animals that are really normally healthy and now they're getting to a stage where they're just 15 and 16 years of age and they bump into things as a bit of blindness and a bit of deafness and a little bit of arthritis.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that one?
Yeah, so that dog that's been healthy all his life and has only been to the vets once in a blue moon throughout his life.
But is now getting just old.
Yeah, so one fine day, due to just purely being old, he probably won't be able to get up out of bed.
Right.
So the hips... musculoskeletal control of the nerves or the hips will just go one of these days. You have a dog that's down, doesn't want to get up out of bed.
So that could be a lot quicker, that one.
Absolutely.
That when you're thinking euthanasia then and it's coming to the end, that could be very rapid.
Oh yeah, John, that's a one-day decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereby he's brought into us and I will try and help the dog to his feet and if I can't, if he just literally is too weak, either neurologically or physically, to stand and function, then I'll know that I don't have a medical fix. I'll know that I don't have time to do much more for this dog, and we'll have to have a one-day conversation about today being the day.
Yeah. What about animals that are terminally ill, but they're not quite to the end of stage? In other words, maybe it's cancerous or something along those lines.
Yeah.
We had this conversation roughly last week, a little bit. We glossed over it.
We did.
But what about that context of it?
So that context is the third category where there's a grey area.
Yes.
Because if you have a tumour in the abdomen, it's hard enough for us to assess to what level is the animal suffering. Because it'll change slightly week by week.
Yeah.
You'll have an animal which is doing fairly okay and still has a reasonable quality of life, and we know he has a tumour, maybe it's lymphoma or something, or a slowly growing liver or spleen cancerous process, and we can medicate up to a point.
Yeah.
Now, what will happen is, with that type of a process, the point will come where he's off his food. So it is a grey area because his appetite might be reducing, but he's still eating. His mobility might be reducing, but he still potters around.
Yeah.
His social functions are reducing, but he still responds to his name and is more or less aware of his environment and where he is.
Okay.
His toileting function is struggling a little, but he still manages to get to the back door most of the time. That's a grey area.
Yeah.
And what we try to do in those situations is bring the owners with us to the point whereby the medication is still working and the side effects are manageable.
Yeah.
Until the actual day where the side effects are too bad. And well, what was the expression I used last week, John? It's better to euthanize a pet in that situation a day early than a day late.
Okay. Marie was on. She says she's going through it now at the moment, euthanasia. She has to make a decision on her dog that's 14 years of age. The vet says there's still a couple of weeks to think about it, but you need to get into that frame of mind. We had a lovely discussion with our vet. She says, what happens next? Do we just take him in and we say goodbye? How does it all work from here? It's a good question now, but that's important.
Now, look, it's really tough because this lady is in the grey...
She knows it's coming.
Yeah, and she's in the grey zone.
Yeah.
Where herself and the vet are going to have to jointly decide when is the day.
Yeah.
And the day they make the decision, unfortunately, is probably going to feel a day early.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to leave it till it's a day too late.
Right, yeah.
So that's the hard part. So when it's a day too late, what will happen is your dog won't be able to get out of bed. Your dog will be incontinent.
Yeah.
Both ends.
Right, okay.
Your dog will be off its food.
Yeah.
And your dog is then suffering.
Okay, right.
So I do want you to make that decision before she goes off her food fully, before she goes off her legs fully. And you should do it at the stage whereby the vet is starting to send signals to you that the medication is having side effects.
Yeah.
So at the point where your pain meds are having side effects, that's the point you should make the decision.
Okay. Right, a couple of other questions just coming in. We'll go through them and we'll come back to that topic in just a second, but just to lighten the mood a little bit, don't want to be too dark. May I ask Des about time to neuter a 14-month-old German Shepherd, and should his floppy ear have pointed up at this stage? Aidan in a thought. That's a good question. Okay, first of all, talk about the first part, 14-month-old German Shepherd neutering.
Yeah, it's a male, so 14 months. He's a large breed. He won't be fully skeletally mature and fully formed until 18 months-ish.
So we're talking about after that period you need to be thinking about it.
I would say, look, the optimum time to neuter this guy, if he's a nice, well-adjusted, temperamentally calm, a good dog, and he's not showing any aggression. In other words, if you have no behavioural need to intervene and neuter now, then you can wait.
Okay.
I'd like you to wait till January, ideally, and neuter him when he's about 16 months.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, and to follow on from that, just part of the same question from Aidan, what the floppy ear have pointed up at this stage and hasn't?
Yeah. I used to breed German Shepherds and Malinois years and years ago. I used to see their ears would come up between 6 and 9 months fully.
Okay, yeah.
So if he still has one floppy ear, then that might just be a permanent little idiosyncrasy with your guy.
No big deal, though.
No big deal.
No big deal whatsoever. Okay. Morning, John. Could you please ask Des why my dog, a Yorkshire Terrier, does an awful lot of sneezing, especially in the morning when he wakes up?
Yeah, Yorkies get, I think, a type of a sneezing process. And it can do with, there's a reverse sneezing thing, a little neurological issue in their throat. It might be that, but more benignly, it might just be a little bit of a house dust allergy.
Okay.
Especially if it's first thing in the morning after being indoors.
Could be anything to do with his bedding?
Yeah, could be something in the bedding. So if it's in the morning time, bear in mind the windows are closed, the central heating's on, houses are stuffy and warm at night. So if he has a little bit of that in the morning, due to probably lack of ventilation, lack of fresh air, it's probably a slight allergy.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it's a bit like humans, wake up in the morning having a sneeze as well. A
bit of fresh air might be just a cure for it.
That's it. Okay. My 18-year-old cat seems to be urinating a lot all of a sudden. Could this be a problem?
Yes, it could be a problem.
Especially at 18.
Yeah, so the big thing, the big area of concern in elderly cats is kidney function.
Okay.
So you do have a kidney function issue there, listener, and I would bring your cat into the vets and have that looked at from the point of view of managing quality of life of this cat now as she approaches definitely the last chapter.
Okay, off to Lucan we go this time to Caroline World. Thank you, Caroline. She says she has a 2-year-old cat. He says seems to be puking up his food, vomiting his food over the last few weeks or so. so he's in great form other than that, and a bit of black stuff comes out with it as well. Could that be fur balls?
Hairballs.
Hairballs.
Yeah, if he's puking up his food like that shortly after he eats it.
Especially if he's in good form after that.
He's in good form, fine.
That's a very similar question to what my cat's going through at the moment.
So sometimes they need a bit more roughage. There's a furball food you can give. So you can buy this furball food, and it helps them pass the fur balls. It helps break up the fur balls, and you can mix it with whatever you're already feeding the cat, and it might be a good idea.
Is it time of the year that the fur balls are around, or is it seasonal, or is it any time of the year?
See, the cat might be indoors a lot and has its winter coat and could be grooming itself a lot indoors at this time of year.
Yeah.
And that might be why she's ingesting more fur.
Yeah, okay, well, very good. Okay, onward bound. There's another one after coming in, and let's have a look. Oh, no, it's nothing to do with us at all. It's a different radio station. There we go. We had that before. Right, let's go. Let's recap then on what we were talking about the animals to finally conclude. Des, end of life. What advice are you giving out
So
there?
there's a quality of life scale.
Yeah.
Right, so routine, toileting functions, appetite, mobility, routine. Dogs are creatures of habit, so are they doing the normal things? Social functions, are they engaging with people, are they interacting, or have they lost interest in the family? Mental functions, do they bark at the same time every day? Do they look for their dinner at the same time every day? Are they aware of the time of day? So if they begin to lose awareness of the time of day, that's a sign of cognitive decline or dementia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing then would be temperament.
Okay.
That older dogs or cats, through being in pain, they can become a little bit grumpier,
Yeah.
a little bit more withdrawn, a little bit less social.
Okay. Now we got a voice note in. It's a bit distorted. I won't play it, but I got the gist of it. It was to do going back to with our conversation regarding kind of end of life and with the discussion we've been had.
Yeah.
What about the cost factor of the medication coming into that period? That'd be pretty high, though, wouldn't it?
It can be. It depends on the disease, but you see a very bad congestive heart failure, heart condition, that can cause a couple of €100 a month.
Yeah.
To treat in the latter stages.
Yeah.
To prolong it.
So the cost actually could go up as well.
Yeah, the cost will go up because the dosages of the medications will go up, and some of these tablets, Vivitonin, Gabapentin, Cardasure, Pimabendin, they are expensive. They'll run into €3 and €4 a day per day for a big dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question here it is. I have a toy poodle, 16 years old. He's starting to pee everywhere in the house and is falling out of his standing. He's still eating and in good form and is failing in the house and is failing. Falling. It is falling out
over.
Of standing. He's falling over a little bit. He's still eating. He's in great form. What do you think?
Okay, sounds to me like he's got a bit of neurological decline in secondary to kidney and liver function.
Okay, right.
So what will happen there is the toxins build up because the liver and kidney are not working as well as they should be, and the toxins building up can cause nausea and dizziness and vertigo and these sort of things. So he's got cognitive decline secondary to impending organ failure.
Okay.
Definitely quality of life concerns there. Should have a chat with your vet today, listener,
vet, yeah.
and put something in place.
Absolutely, do it ASAP because the sooner the better, and your dog could be in pain as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, Des, well done on that one. Oh, there's another one coming up. We'll have a chat for 30 seconds. Next week we'll lighten the load a little bit, very much so. We'll probably heading in towards the Christmas run-in, so we'll talk
about dietary and food and Christmas things and all the rest of it now, But look, as the weather has changed, we've gotten into winter, we're grappling with these issues about the older dogs and the older cats every day. So it's important for listeners to know that they can talk to people about it in good time, because it's not going to be a surprise to us.
Yeah.
We're, believe you me, we're seeing it all. And it's hard on the veterinary teams to have to deal with these problems every day of the week, but the sooner we get an older dog or an older cat under care, the happier we are.
Okay, on that note, we wrap it up for today. We'll be podcasting a little bit later on this episode, and you can see it on our usual location under podcast at kfmradio.com. Back again next week with Des.
It's a pet's life with Jim Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.